What's up, everybody? Today I'm going to be taking our camper back to the outdoor storage facility. I wish I didn't have to, but unfortunately we don't have enough room at the house. So some of the things I'm going to go over is hooking up the sway control, the weight distribution bars, and some of the other steps that I take to make sure that it's roadworthy, everything is safe, everything's ready to go, and a little bit of a couple tips to get that going nice and smooth. One of the first things that I do before I get ready to hook up to tow the camper anywhere, I'm going to make sure that the slide outs are in all the way. I'm going to make sure that everything is turned off that needs to be turned off inside the camper, so that when I unplug, whether it's going to be from a campsite or if it's going to be from the house like we are now, that nothing is going to be shocked, right? So I turn the AC's bent off. We don't have 30 amp at the house, so the AC's off. Turn the fridge off. The slide outs are in, all of the drapes are up, all of the doors are shut, everything is locked, everything seems to be good to go. So now that we've gone to make sure everything on the inside is done, I'm gonna bring up the stabilizer jacks. For me, I use a drill bit, a socket, and just use my drill to make sure it's a little bit easier, save some work on myself. One of the most important things when you're bringing up the rear stabilizer jacks is to make sure you bring them up completely and all the way. What has happened to me in the past, I didn't bring them up all the way. I thought I had enough clearance, and then I went over some uneven terrain. The jacks hit the ground, ended up getting bent. I had to replace them. So I got a new pair, moved them up about 6-7 inches, and now I get full clearance. I make sure they come up all the way. I still have the stabilization that I need, and when I'm going down the road, I don't have to worry about it. Now that I know that the stabilizer jacks are up, I'm gonna get the hitch into the truck and back it on up to the trailer. I'll go ahead and get a little close, help me out a little bit. When the jack comes off the wood, I know that it's pretty much good. Everything, the ball's on the hitch, it's good to go. So I'll lock it in place. When I put the weight distribution bars on, I'm gonna end up jacking it up so that way I can test and make sure that I got a good grip around the ball. Now that I got everything hitched up, I put my safety cables on, the safety chain. Go ahead and put the pigtail in, make sure I got power to the camper. That's good. So the ball's locked, safety chains are on, pigtails in. So I'm going to go ahead. Now my next step is going to be to put the weight distribution bars on. So to make it easier on myself, I jack up the camper and the back of the truck. So now that I got the truck jacked up, I know the ball is locked. It would have came out by now. The next step's the weight distribution bars. I'm going to pull the pins. Both sides are exactly the same. So this pin that you see here, pull that out. This bracket, I got a Curtis system. This bracket comes down. The chain is going to hook into that. So I'm going to do that on the passenger side. Out. Here's my weight distribution bar. That's going to go in to this bottom female fitting on your hitch. locked. You can feel it go in there, it crosses over a pin, locks it in place. Now, you can see on this other side, I know from experience that I need to be the third chain link down on my side, on both sides for this truck, for the proper setup. So I got the third chain link wrapped around. I'm going to use this bar to gain some leverage to pull that hook back up top. Now when I do the other side, the driver's side, I'll get a closer view. So here we are on the driver's side. This is the end that's going to go into the hitch. So I'm going to lock that in place. You hear it click, it's locked in. I have these chains that I need to hook in to this hook, and that's going to pull the chain tight, and that's going to give me all of my weight distribution that I need to help out. One thing that I do, I make sure that the chain is in a straight line. It's not all contorted around at different angles. You can do that just by looking at the bottom of your bar all the way up to the top. Make sure it's in a straight uniform line. Again, I go 3 links down. 1, 2, 3. So come from the inside, put on the third link. Now you see here, I'm not able to get all the way around down. Oh, there we are. Now I help myself out because if I didn't jack up the truck so much, there would be a further distance. I'd have a harder time making that connection. So raising up the camper, raising up the hitch on the back of the truck made that easier for me. So now I'll get the pipe, put it in to this fitting here, and turn it back around. There we go. Got tension on there. Put the cotter pin back in. So now we got the weight distribution bars. I'm going to go ahead, bring up the tongue jack all the way, put all the weight on the truck, and you're going to start to see the chains will tension up a little bit, and you'll see that these bars are going to take some of that weight and move it from here to the back of the camper, which is going to help the truck. When I'm bringing up the tongue jack, I like to make sure that the bottom is above the weight distribution bars. Now what I'm going to hook up is my sway bar control system. So how that is going to work, I put the front end onto the hitch. Extend it a little bit, loosen it up a little. Extend it a little bit, and it'll connect to this ball back here on the camper. Once both those are in place, put a pin in the one end, a pin in the back end, and it's not going anywhere. Now I want to tighten it down, and what this is doing, this is acting like a bolt and a nut, and it's going to squeeze. So when this black housing squeezes and this slides back and forth as the truck or the camper turns, and it's going to help slow that down. It kind of acts like a brake. The tighter you put this, the tighter it's going to work. The more it's going to work. Now the system that I have is a 10,000 pound Curtis system. There are nicer systems out there, but this is what I got from the dealership when I bought the camper. Now that I'm used to it, I like it. It took a little bit to get used to, but it's what I'm used to, and it's what I like. Now that I'm all hooked up to the truck, I got the weight distribution bars on, the sway control on. I'm gonna go ahead and disconnect the electric from the house. I usually leave my electric hooked up to the house while I'm hooking up so that I can get that added electrical power, and it's not pulling everything off of the camper battery or the truck battery. So I'm going to disconnect that, check the 4-ways, make sure all my lights are good, and remove my chocks from the tires, and then we should be good to go to pull on out. All right, we're at the storage unit now. It's an outdoor facility. Got a plenty of space here. We got a spot, you can see it back there, concrete pad. I don't have to worry about moisture coming up through the gravel all summer long. But the first thing we need to do is take our sway control off. The sway control that we got is not, you can't back up with it. It's going to tear it up. The weight distribution you can back up with, but the sway control you cannot. So we're going to go ahead and take that off now before we get it into the spot, and that's the first thing that we always going to do. Sometimes if I get closer to where we're going, or if I know I'm going to have to back up, I will preemptively take it off. We get to the campground when we're checking in, I'll just jump off, take that out right when we're checking in. So with our sway control system, just like putting it on, all we have to do is loosen it up and take the pins out now. See, it's still loose, but the slide here isn't going to go anywhere. So I'm going to loosen that up, take these pins out. Now I can take it off, and this slides freely. Okay, now we got it backed into our spot at the storage unit. I'm going to chock the wheels on the driver's side, front end, back, first off before I do anything. The wheels are chocked, so I know when I disconnect up here, it's not going to roll front or back. Everything's pretty level here, but just to be safe, you never know. So what I'm going to prepare for now, I'm going to put down some extra wood underneath the tongue jack to make sure that I can get enough travel up enough to make it easier for my weight distribution bars to be on. Now, as this starts to lower down and it hits the wood, I'm going to let it pick the butt end of the truck up with it, and you can see once it gets high enough, it's going to make taking that tension off the weight distribution bars that much easier. So I got it up a little bit of a ways. I don't need to jack it up as high as I do to put the bars on. I don't want to put that much strain on the battery on the camper or my electrical system on the truck. So just like we did when we were hooking everything up, we're going to take this cotter pin out and put this bar into the top and motion it down. So I'll do it on the driver's side first. Pin out. There's still a lot of tension on it, so you got to be careful. Come down, that crack's open, the bar will go to the front. When the bar goes to the front, it's going to move a pin inside of this hitch and let the bar come out. Just like that. Put your cotter pin back in. Come over to this side for the same thing. Pin out. There you go. Put the bracket back up. Cotter pin back in. Swing it to the forward. Sometimes you have a little bit of trouble. So now I'm going to lower it down all the way and get ready to release the ball from the hitch. Now the tongue jack is off the wood, so I can undo my lock. Open that up, raise it back up. As that's going, I'm going to take the safety cable, the safety chains off. Now the only thing left hooked up is the electrical system, and the hitch is still on the ball. So now my hitch is completely off the ball. I'm clear to pull out. I'm going to disconnect the electrical system. What I do is I usually put it right down under the propane tanks in a downward position so any kind of rain won't accumulate inside of that plug. I also have a bag that I keep for my tongue jack. Try to preserve it, take care of my stuff, make sure it'll last for a long time. You guys see how easy this is? It's a lot better than having to hand crank this thing up and down. Tighten that up, pull that in, put the lock back on. The only thing that I got left to do is disconnect the battery, and what I'm going to end up doing is taking the battery back home, just putting it on a trickle charger to make sure that it's not losing any of its power. So that was a pretty good hookup from the beginning. Took it to the storage unit, unhooked everything. Usually when I'm taking it over to the storage unit for the shorter hauls, I don't have to worry about hitting the sway bar control and the weight distribution bars, but it's a little windy out today. I figured the added protection would be nice. So you see here, everything's disconnected. I pulled the truck away. I lowered the tongue jack down a little bit just to keep it level. But now I'm gonna go ahead and take the battery cover off, disconnect the cables, take the battery home with me, and that should be about it. So right now, before I do that, I'm gonna do a final walk around, make sure that everything is good to go on the camper. I'm gonna make sure all the doors are locked, all the windows are shut tight, so if it does rain, we're not gonna get any water in there. Water and camper doesn't mix. So I don't worry about the stabilizer jacks. I don't worry about putting those down. So we're gonna be back out here in probably about 4 or 5 days to pull this thing back out, to take it home, to get ready to go camping again. So if you got any suggestions or anything that you'd like to say, go ahead and leave that below. But ultimately, remember, this is just so advice. Thanks.